Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders, and I'm pleased to have on with me a senior for the Naugatuck Greyhounds, Andrew Tyszka, who's with me. And if that name sounds familiar, he's a football player. Found out junior year was his first year playing football. Wish I knew that during the football broadcast, but that's a whole nother thing. But baseball is his thing. He'll be playing baseball in college, and he'll be heading into his senior year. Andrew, I appreciate you being able to come on, man.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Really appreciate the opportunity.
It's always great to be able to have conversations as now we're entering the spring portion, right? I mean, I had the fall and the winter broadcast. Now I got a little bit of a lull, get to kind of sit back and watch the baseball, softball, etc. And baseball is obviously my love, played it my whole life. And finding out that you're a pitcher, we're gonna have some pretty nice conversations. But before we get any further with that, I just want to ask you, as far as kind of the athlete side of you, right? I mean, I've talked to many athletes who kind of focus on one sport, which is fine. I respect that. But when I talk to an athlete who's played multiple sports, it's really unique because it's becoming a less and less kind of thing. So for you, as you've now played multiple sports, how has that been for you and your mindset, getting your body in shape? Because football and baseball, two different styles of weightlifting and such.
Yeah, no, I could definitely agree with that. Like coming like straight out of football, like two totally different lifts, like you said, and like just I feel like it definitely strengthened like my lower half of my body. So like it's good. It kept me loose during football too, because I was definitely like tight before I joined, but like just
Mhm.
stretching every day, lifting, like just really helped me like my athleticism and things like that. But baseball aspect of it, like it's more like specific muscle groups instead of like one large one. Like
Mhm.
saying like, for example, like bench, like that's not really that good for pitchers. Like, and you know that it's not good for the shoulder and none of that. So, but definitely like playing multiple sports definitely increases like your athleticism and like being able to do things that you're not going to be able to do in like baseball, for example. So
Mhm. I would
definitely
think
helps.
too for the football side, because you mentioned as far as the weightlifting on the lower half. I mean, obviously for pitchers, if you got a strong lower half, you can really sustain the velocity and the crispness of your curveball, your slider, etc. So, with that being said, because again, I've always believed the core is kind of what drives the car, right? If your core is strong, then you can generate that velocity as you're going downhill and such from the mound. Has that been a focus, or was that something you were doing in football already? As far as your core strength.
See, ever since I was like a little kid, man, like I've always like just banged out like maybe 100 sit-ups and just like strengthened my body, just like calisthenics wise. So like
Okay.
I've always had like a strong core, but definitely like football, like definitely what's it called? Like gave me more things to do, like specifically to work on like core wise and
Hmm.
just different rotations. Like good one for baseball is like Russian twist because you get like rotational power, which that's all about for pitchers. So and for hitting too as well. So but definitely like just being exposed to many different lifts from football to baseball really helps a lot. So
Is there any particular player that I don't want to say model your game after off the field? On the field, we'll get to that later. But off the field, as far as like you mentioned, the calisthenics and all that, when you said that, the first person that came to my mind, and I don't know how much of a baseball wizard, guy you are, but Jake Arrieta, right? He was drafted by Baltimore, kind of had some pretty iffy years, got traded to the Cubs, and for a 2, 3 year span he was the best pitcher in baseball. He threw multiple no hitters. He was the reason why Chicago, in my opinion, was even in the hunt for a World Series, right? In 15, they had just lost, and then 16, they won against the Cleveland Indians at the time. Do you get that comparison with Jake Arrieta at all?
honestly, like I really don't like have anyone that I compare myself to because
Hmm.
I kind of just do my own thing. Just, but definitely, you could definitely learn things from like pros and things like that. But mainly, I just do a lot of research and find what best works for me. So, but
Is there any sort of conversations that maybe, I mean, do you, like you said, you do research. So are you doing a lot of reading? Are you watching a lot of videos? Are you having conversations with various players, teammates, coaches like Coach Ionati or others that you kind of try to pick their brains? Because I feel like you're the kind of kid that wants to continuously learn, and there's never, that perfect, like, okay, I've learned enough, I'm good. I don't get that vibe from you.
Yeah, no, I'm never satisfied with myself and where I'm at. I always want to keep working, you know.
Mhm.
But definitely, I like watching like videos a lot and just like seeing other people's perspectives and things like that. Like really
Mhm.
helps me out because like ultimately, I'm just trying to find what's best for me and like what works for me, and then just not change it because if it's working, why change it? But definitely, like one of my coaches that I really like try to like look up to is Coach Duda and Coach Hiscock. Because I don't know if you're familiar with Coach Hiscock, but he was playing spring training with the Tampa Bay Rays, pitched with David Price, and then Coach Duda he played at a Division 1 level, and he's been like my main guy basically all throughout high school. So those are
Mhm.
the guys I look up to when it comes to pitching.
That's like you mentioned. What was the pitching coach? Was it Hitchcock? Is that his name?
Hiscock, yeah,
So for him to be in spring training with at the time the Devil Rays, right? I'm thinking of, and again, this is showing my age here. So going back with David Price, if I remember right, James Shields was on that team. Maybe I could be wrong. Casimir may or may not have been on that team, but that's a pretty fun group to be around, right? To have Price, who was Vanderbilt's strikeouts, wins, all that, number one overall pick. I mean, I remember watching a video where he was actually living at one point in his car and such, just because he was trying to save money. Because again, the money now is different than what it was when he was first drafted, right? I mean, does
yeah.
he ever tell stories about conversations he had with Price or anything like that?
And not so much, but I actually want to ask him about that now that you mentioned that because it sounds great, but nah, I haven't really heard much about it. But
If you have the opportunity for me, if you forget, that's fine. I understand. But ask him if you could why David Price went from his traditional windup to the abbreviated windup. At what point did he do that? If you could remember that, I would appreciate
all
that.
right, yeah, no doubt, yeah.
Hopefully he has the answer for
I'm
that.
curious myself too.
Yeah, right. So with you having these like having all this like knowledge, right? I mean, sometimes too much now. I'm sure Anderson or Ionati or Maffo have said maybe once or twice, or maybe somebody has said to them like, "Hey, I can only take so much information. I don't need all of it. Just give me what I can, and then we'll go from there." Right? For you, are you the kind of person that could take all the information and then digest it and then kind of spew out, or in this case, play way that you're hearing it, or are you somebody that is like, "Okay, I've had enough. Give me some time. Let me play through it." Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But like to consider myself like a sponge, like Coach Anderson preaches all the time, like be a sponge, absorb all the information that you can, and
Mhm.
then just try to apply it to wherever like the advice is for. So
Mhm.
definitely, I don't think a lot of information is enough, to be honest. I think the
Mhm.
more information I get, the better I understand. That's just how I am as a person. Like if you ask Coach Griesenauer on
Mhm.
football, the amount of questions I asked him, like at the beginning of the season, my junior year when I first started playing, it's at least like 10, 15 a day. Like it was crazy. Like he would just get so mad at me. He's like, dude, you just gotta stop asking me questions, man. Like, now I'm playing. But no, he was always there to help me. But yeah, no, I don't think enough too much information is enough. So
There were so many times I'd wonder why Grease wasn't wearing a jacket. I remember against Darien, it was like 10 degrees out. I'm wearing 14 layers, and this dude's wearing no jacket. And I'm like, I feel so bad for you, but then I don't because you don't look cold.
yeah, no, he's always hyped up, man. His blood's always flowing. So
Jeez, it's almost like too. There's a coach that knows the Naugatuck Valley pretty well, Steve Cross. I don't know if you know him. He coached at Holy Cross. He never wears long pants. He always wears shorts. If it's
oh
five
really?
degrees out, he wears shorts. If it's snowing, he wears shorts. He's a madman. He's crazy.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, right. I mean, but he's a great. I mean, he coaches at Anna Maria. He actually has a lot of talents from the NVL, and he's done great work there. And but every time I see him, it's he actually. I saw him a couple years ago when Holy Cross played against New Fairfield in the quarterfinal. It was probably 15 degrees with like a wind chill of like 20. It was bad. It was cold. And what's this guy doing? Wearing shorts. It's crazy, dude. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. So I want to talk a little bit about your pitching style, right? Without giving up too much, if you can share anything, the repertoire that you have, Are you happy with it? Do you feel like there's certain things that you can work on? Is it the curveball? Is it the changeup? I know the changeup has kind of lost some of its sexiness, I guess, over the last 15, 20 years because it's all about the curve and the slider. Anything you can share as far as that?
Um, Honestly, the one thing that I wish like is better, but it's just all about confidence. Like, that like baseball is mainly like 70% mental and 30% physical. So,
Yeah.
but I think my changeup is like one of my weakest pitches right now. But definitely just gotta keep working on it and just gain confidence because if you're not gonna throw it in a game, then what's the point of like throwing it at all? But
Well, think about it too, the lineups that you face, right? I mean, over the last what 3 years you've had the Woodland lineup, which was pretty good. 2 years ago was the St. Paul lineup, which was like every kid was like an all-star, I felt like, and then you had obviously Ryan Daniels, who's at UConn and such, Ceruto, who was a great catcher playing in college now. And I'm sure like Seymour, obviously, Ansonia had some boppers. So, you can't rely on just the fast, even the curveball too. If you have a nasty curveball, you can't even rely on that now
yeah,
because
because they'll pick up on it really quick. So
exactly. So you need to have something to kind of like make them spin a couple times and just put in their mind like, okay, here's something slow with some tumble. You know what I mean?
no, definitely just like the repertoire, like we were saying, like
Mm,
you don't want to like just keep the same thing like for every batter. Like you gotta like know you're like I've been in the league for obviously 3, 4 years now.
mm,
So I know like most people, but like even like some of the newbies and things like that and people like that,
mm.
um, you just never know. But you just gotta start off hot and deep in the count, but then after that you just gotta just challenge them, hope for the best. But honestly, like curveball, go-to pitch,
Hmm.
change up, just need to work on it a little bit. But fastball is like my main thing. So I don't know, I'm just trying not to give up too much information right now.
That's why I'm saying that's why I made sure I asked like, hey, tell me every single pitch you got, what's the velocity, what's the spin rate. I'm not gonna obviously ask that because then, for all you know, somebody from Holy Cross or Ansonia is gonna watch it and be like, oh, perfect. Now I know exactly what he throws, right?
Yeah.
But as far as I would say, watching high school games as I have, and even the college level, right? It's amazing how throwing inside has kind of lost its luster a little bit. I don't know if it's because of velocity. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. I don't know if you pitched in any showcases or such before you committed, but over the last couple of years, I'm seeing, and this goes in softball too. I'm seeing less and less pitchers throwing inside on the inner half of the plate, and I kind of wonder why, because if you own that inner half, you own the entire plate now, because now you're in the psyche of the mind of the hitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. But honestly, um, when you get an inside pitch like called by either your coach or catcher, like you just gotta bust them inside because then it'll just like get them all tight and then they'll back off the plate and it's your plate now, like you said. So definitely, like I've definitely seen that as well. Like I feel like everyone works the outer side of the half,
Mhm.
but
So, what kind of mindset, like when you're about to pitch? So, give me, I'm sure you can share this part as far as the routine. Like, are you waking up at a certain time the day you pitch? I know obviously you have school more often than not, but are you making sure that you have the right breakfast in the morning, like same breakfast, same amount of, I mean, I know every pitcher's different. I was crazy. Same amount of steps that you take from the dugout to the bullpen. Like, trust me, we're all crazy in and of itself. Do you have a certain routine that you have every time that you start?
uh yeah, like the night before, like just eat as much carbs as I can, just get energy, and then get a good night's sleep, go to bed like early, wake up whenever I got school because most of the games are on school days, so
Yeah.
go. But then I would get home, just mentally prep myself, maybe eat like something light. I don't really like to eat too much because then I just don't feel right. And then
Hmm.
obviously I don't this is probably not the best thing, but I love my energy drinks, man. It's bad to say, but it gets me a nice little boost and gets me all fired up. But and then after I get to the field, I like to jog a few poles, and then warm up, stretch, warm up, do
Hmm.
bands, talk to my catcher a little bit, just like go through game like scenarios and things like that. So
So when you have just look, okay, so first I want to go to the catching part. Now, I'm assuming you had Dito Bomb catch you a couple times, right? Here or
no,
there.
yeah, I had Deets my whole high school career. So
So that must have been, and again, that's your also teammate for football or former teammate. So that must have been you and him must have been. No, I understand different position on the football field, but again, you're always talking and such. I'm sure when it came, and he was a very good. I mean, there was nothing that got by him behind the plate. He was like a wall. Hence, he's like a brick, right? So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, the wavelength must have been pretty strong with you too. Like he must have been able to put down a finger for not like
yeah,
whatever.
we were on the same exact page. Like
Exactly.
you put a finger down, I was literally thinking that. So
Perfect. So then now with having to now with a new catcher and such, has there been any growing pains? Has there been anything to kind of think about and have to go through with that or no?
uh definitely just like getting a lot of reps with my guy James Crilly.
Okay.
So just got to go through some few things with him and
Hmm.
like go through what I probably am gonna do in like certain counts and things like that.
Hmm.
So we could like get that chemistry and things like that. But I try to like go out with him a little bit, just talk to him more, just get that bond. It's like nothing's gonna really replace Deets, but yeah.
So as we look at, I want to ask you as far as your mound presence, because there's kind of really three styles, right? There's the Steve Traxels of the day who look like he could have been anywhere but on a mound. Then you got Roger Clemens, who I'm sure you know who he is. He was a madman. He was nuts. And then you kind of have the in-between guy who can be kind of fiery, but also can be calm, cool, and collected. So where would you be along those lines?
Uh, so I've definitely like changed in a good way. I feel like I started off like fiery, like my freshman and sophomore year, and
Hmm.
then coming off last year's season, and then beginning of this one, just feel like
Hmm.
I'm being more calm, collective, because that's when I like start doing well. But when I get like well, it depends what kind of fired up you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like mad at either like the other team. Like I feel like when other teams like to talk, like that's what gets me fired up, and I just want to sit them down and then fire it right back at them. But I'm trying my best to just stay calm and just do my thing, stay in a routine, and get the job done.
Well, I can tell you this much. I don't know if I'd want to get some of the Naugy because you guys run big. There's some big boys who play for Naugy, and I know there's some big kids on the other teams too, but I don't know if there's as many who play football who played football who are also playing baseball. And Naugy's got a couple of them. Sestari, one of them, Tex is another. I mean, I don't know if I want to get them mad.
No,
I
I
mean,
definitely transitioning from a football mindset to a baseball mind. Like it's totally different. Like, I
I,
mean, I get it. Like talk a little bit because you're like face to face with them, but like when you're far away, like I
hmm,
don't know, it's not cool because like you got a whole crowd around you and like little kids like that want to support. So just
yeah.
trying to calm, cool, and collective and
Hmm.
professional. That's what I try to strive for. So
Was there any game that you had last year that you felt like as you head into this year can jumpstart you? Or in a lot of ways, I guess what I'm trying to say is the light bulb, right? I mean, I've said during many broadcasts, if this kid's light bulb just goes off, I mean, there was a player for a career this year that he doesn't even realize from a basketball standpoint. Javon Bracey, he's got the ability to be a fantastic player. He could be better than Lott and Drew Williams. Now, if the lights got to go off, he's still a young kid. I hope it does go off for him. For you, was that light able to go off last year? Do you feel like it's getting to that point this year? I mean, if you can, talk to me about that.
definitely like one of my best games was either St. Paul or Holy Cross because we haven't beaten them in such a long time. So just beating them, like just knowing that you beat them physically as a pitcher, but
Hmm.
then all the other guys behind you is what really won us the game. But no, like the St. Paul game, it was crazy because it literally ended off Tech stealing second base. Well, he beat out a grounder to first, then stole second, and then got hit in for 1-1 tie. And
Hmm.
like might have been like the fifth or the sixth inning, but then came back out there, shut him out, and then uh we scored another. I forget how we scored another run, but we ended up winning 2-1. So it was a very, very close game. But
You said that was Tex.
yeah,
So he's got some wheels. That's what you're saying.
yeah, man. Yeah,
Showing the lineman feet a little bit fast there. I like that. Good to hear.
all those duck walks.
Hey, you guys would know better than me. Andrew, I really appreciate you coming on. It's a lot of fun being able to have you be able to have our conversations. Before I let you go quick, what are the goals for the Greyhounds heading into this spring 24 season?
So definitely one of like obviously the most like meaningful goal to me is just changing our culture, man. Like changing our culture from whatever it has been like the past few years to like a closer team like football. Like we were so close, like the brotherhood was just there. And I just that's how I want it to be, just chill and like everyone's putting in work, like being focused and just
Yeah.
winning games. That's a lot of fun. Like especially like knowing that you went out there and just gave it your all and left it all on the field, like with your brothers, like pain, blood, sweat, and tears, man. Like
Mhm.
just changing that culture to that is it's a hard team to beat. And then ultimately at the end of the day, like bringing home an NVL championship because we haven't brought one home since like I think 2006. So
Wow.
and then after that, state champs, baby. That's what I'm hoping for. And I
Well,
know we have the talent to do so. So
what you should do if, if any of the younger cats end up giving you guys problems is be like, all right, well, the two bookend tackles can just step on you. Then there you go. Maybe they'll listen.
yeah.
Because the younger kids, again, you got to kind of mature them, kind of get them through and have them see the right way. And it's good
Yeah.
that they have you and Tex, Astari. There's other guys too that I'm sure I have not mentioned, but obviously those guys are my most familiar because of football. But and I know Coach Ionati as well has been with the program now a couple years, and you mentioned the program standpoint of trying to get the culture aspect that you want to get that brotherhood, that family side. And I know Ionati, who is a very good coach, will try to push that through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's two words, attitude and effort. And that's what we preach and live by. So I think that's gonna get the job done.
Well, Andrew, I appreciate you coming on, buddy. Always fun being able to talk with you. Best of luck as far as this season, and hopefully I see you guys down the road at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Always. Now, wrap things up in the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Remember to find them all. Go this shit, everybody, and be well.